As always, it's a pleasure to share some Divrei Torah with you today in anticipation of this last Shabbos of the year. It's hard to believe we've come to the last Shabbos of the year. I always find it to be a moving experience that causes me to reflect a little bit upon the year that has passed and the year that's to come. It's like the sign on the highway that says last exit before the toll. You pass Rosh Chodesh Elul, and you pass the Shiva Nenechemta, the special Haftorahs for this time of year, and you pass shofar blowing, and you pass the daily recitation twice a day of the David Hashem Ori, and all the other road signs, procrastinating about the hard work that comes with endings and beginnings and transitions to a new year. But when you hit that last Shabbos of the year, it's a reminder that if you don't really stop to reflect before the end of the year, the time will have passed and it will be too late. It's a reminder that you have gone through an entire year since last Rosh Hashanah, and that always hits me with great force. In fact, in Hasidic thought, the last Shabbos of the year has the potential to spiritually redefine all the Shabbatot of the year that came before it. One final amazing Shabbos can actually mean that the whole previous year, with all its Shabboses, are reinvented and redefined and recharacterized. It's a powerful force to the last Shabbos of the year. Chazal also felt, it's not just the Hasidic idea, but Chazal also felt that the last Shabbos of the year is important in setting the tone for the transition to Rosh Hashanah. And we couldn't just leave it to chance or happenstance. The Gemara in Megillah, Daf Lamed Aleph Amid Aleph, quotes Reb Shimon ben Elazar as saying that Ezra instituted that the Tochacha of the Chukosai should be read before Shavuos, and the Tochacha of Kisavo, last week's Parsha, should be read before Rosh Hashanah, so that, according to the Gemara, Tichla Shana V'Kilaloseha, that the year will end with all of its curses. You don't want the curses to carry over into the year that is to come. You want it to end before Rosh Hashanah so that we close out the year, the curses are over, go on to a new beginning. Tosfos on that Gemara, Rosh Hashanah, quotes Rabbeinu Nissim, who says that our practice actually has gone even beyond the requirement of the Gemara, since we take this principle of Tichla Shana V'Kilaloseha very seriously. Even in a year when we could read Kisavo right before Rosh Hashanah, the timing of the Parshios would work out that way and fulfill the mandate of the Gemara, finishing out the year with all of its curses before beginning a new one, and still be able to finish the whole Torah cycle in time for Simchas Torah. Everything would align, everything would work out. We still make sure, like this year, to read Nitzavim before Rosh Hashanah, to read Kisavo 2 weeks before, and to read Nitzavim 1 week before, so that we have 1 week buffer between the difficult curses of Kisavo and the new year, starting with Rosh Hashanah. Chazal wanted us to enter the new year with a clean conscience and a hopeful disposition, rather than being weighed down by our failures, by the reminders of all these curses that could come upon us. There's a wonderful Rashi in our Parsha, quoting really the Medrash Tanchuma, that I mentioned in my thought for the day yesterday, but I would like to elaborate upon today, since it furthers this concept of the importance of transitioning from Kisavo to Nitzavim to Rosh Hashanah quite deliberately. Our Parsha begins, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem Lifnei Hashem Elokechem. You are all standing before Hashem your God. And the description of us standing is critically important. All of us, Rashechem, Shiftechem, Ziknechem, Shotrechem, Kol Ish Yisrael, Tapchem, Neshechem, Gercha Asher B'Karav Machanecha, Mechet Chotei Veitzecha, Ad Sholim Memech. Every stratum of society is represented in this scene where we are standing, Nitzavim, before Hashem. Rashi asked the obvious question, Lama Nismacha Parshas Atem Nitzavim Laklalos. Why does this Parsha of Atem Nitzavim, us standing before God, follow Kisavo with all of its curses? And Rashi answers, Lefisha Shamu Yisrael Mea Klalos Chaser Shtaim, Chutz Mimem Tesha B'Toras Kohanim. The Jewish people heard all of the curses, the many, many curses in Kisavo, in addition to all the curses we heard in Bechukosai, all the Klalos, all the threats. Hariku Pneim, the Amru, Miu Chalamod Be'elu. Their faces went pale, they went numb, and they said, how could we ever possibly stand up to this great challenge? So Moshe begins to calm them down, to appease them. He says, no, you're still standing. Don't worry. You hurt them. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, but you're still standing. You did anger God a lot. You were deserving of so many of those curses, but you are still standing. God didn't get rid of you. God didn't push you aside. God didn't say that's the end of you. You're still standing. Hare atem kayamim lefanav. You are still here. You are still existent. You are still beloved before him. Very powerful Rashi, very powerful image. Atem Nitzavim. Rashi is telling us that after hearing all the potential curses that would come upon the Jewish people if they failed to adhere to the laws of the Torah and the covenant with Hashem, after reflecting upon the tall order that lay in front of them, the Jewish people were exasperated. They became so despondent that they were pale in the face. They were about to faint. They were about to give up. They were thinking that the task of Shmiras HaTorah, Shmiras HaMitzvos, would be an impossible one, that they could never stand up to that challenge. Hashem needed to follow the curses of Kisavo with the Parsha of Nitzavim to remind them that while the stakes are indeed very high and the challenge is great, they are certainly up to the task and they have nothing to fear. Even if they messed up, Hashem would accept their tshuva, continue to forgive them, and never abandon his relationship with them, no matter what. Hashem literally reminds them that just after hearing the curses, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem, you are all still standing, every single one of you, from the greatest tzaddikim to the simplest of people. You have made it thus far. So too in the future. No matter how badly we will fail, no matter how badly we will fall, it will never keep us down, because we will remain standing, Nitzavim. Hashem will help us to stand up again, Nitzavim, and continue to move forward. Vayelech, the next of our two parshios, as long as we are sincere in our desire to try and try again. The reminder to Bnei Yisrael in that moment is equally as important for us today. We find ourselves in this liminal moment between Kisavo and Rosh Hashanah, which will, in Mirza Hashem, herald a great time in our lives in the year to come. We find ourselves hoping with every ounce of our being that Tichle Shana v'Kilelosea, and as they say, Teichel Shana u'Virchosea, that the old year with all of its challenges will end and a new year of bracha, of blessing, and of hope will emerge. We find ourselves now literally in that transition, reflecting upon all the harsh struggles and complexities and hurdles of the past year, perhaps really afraid of what might be in store in the year to come, or really hopeless about the prospects for success, or really nervous about how we will survive. We open our ears this Shabbos and we hear these reassuring words, like a pat on the back, like a hug, like an arm around our shoulder, the calm embrace of a fatherly figure like a Kadosh Baruch Hu reminding us, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kulchem, you are still standing. You can do it. Nothing has brought you down. Nothing has made you collapse. I will prop you up. You've made it this far. You've reached yet another final Shabbos of the year. You made it through the year that has passed. Hashem reiterates to us again and again that just making it to the finish line, still standing. We don't have to be so successful. We don't have to be incredible. We don't have to be shining lights, but we just make it to the finish line. That itself is a huge accomplishment that we can feel very good about, very proud of. Hashem is encouraging us this Shabbos to take a moment to pause and appreciate that accomplishment, hoping that that reflection can help us to fill us with hope about the prospect for our success in the year to come. The principle behind Ezra's enactment of the order of the Torah readings, in order to distance Rosh Hashanah from the curses of Kisavo, and our furthering of that enactment in making sure to read Nitzavim in between, is such a positive and empowering principle and lesson. We really view Rosh Hashanah as a time for new beginnings, a time of renewal in which we can start all over again. It's a time when we can leave the past behind, so to speak, including all of the bad stuff that's happened to us, all of the tragedies and the challenges, even the fears of potential curses that may come upon us, and begin a new year with hope and optimism about our own lives and the fate of the world. This kind of attitude is more necessary this year, perhaps, than in many years before. We're all struggling with the transition between a very abnormal year that has passed, half of which was lived under the strangest of conditions, and the prospect of a year to come still filled with much uncertainty. Even for just a brief moment, we should all feel as we read Nitzavim, whether at home or in Shul this Shabbos, that the curses are behind us and that we are still standing. We should all take a moment to enter a sort of fantasy world in which we could walk away from the curses of last week, of last year, and simply move to a better year ahead. Even if that's naive and oversimplified and unrealistic, since we know that we'll certainly have new challenges in the year to come, as we always do. And we don't just walk away and leave it all behind, But still, going into that fantasy world, even for a moment, might just help to give us the necessary breathing room and lift our spirits enough to get us into the right mindset to frame the year to come in the best way that we can, with the hope that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless us with much bracha v'atzlacha, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as much as he is capable, will remove all of the klalos, all of the challenges, all of the roadblocks from our way, prop us up, lift us up, allow us to stand, and allow us to walk into a bright, amazing future in the year to come. I wish you all a wonderful Shabbos ahead for this last Shabbos of the year, wonderful week ahead in preparation for the great day of Rosh Hashanah that is still yet to come. Thank you so much.